Awesome. So this is an inaugural episode of our. This hour has 56 minutes. New idea. I don't think there's any other 56 percenter podcast out there. Hopefully, we'll be the first, and we'll get most of the audiences. Well, we're just gonna introduce ourselves. I'll let Cuban introduce himself first, and then I'll go after him.
A lot of people know me for spurting striker many times, and I've called on Radical Agenda. I'm on Gab at Anti-Communist Cuban. I think definitely our ideas are definitely some that are very interesting compared to a lot of other people. That's for sure. Go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Yeah. Well, I go by Rafael Trujillo and Gab, and I have been listening to Cantwell before he was even doing the Radical Agenda. He was doing some garbage podcast. He was on Free Talk Live, and I even read some of his articles on A Voice for Men. Strangely enough, none of his articles are on that website anymore. So yeah, it was just I kind of went red-pilled with him over time.
So you took the ride along with Cantwell, because Cantwell was before like a libertarian, as I am, and we've transitioned to getting more white nationalists, more I guess you could say nationalistic.
Yeah, well, it was kind of not too hard for me because I always noticed like there was differences between black people and everybody else. I just didn't know how extreme those differences were. I always thought, oh, it's grew up in poverty or grew up without a father. But yeah, I grew up in poverty without a father. I wasn't anywhere near as bad as they were.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that was emphasized in my community was always, to always have some sort of like racial integrity, and to be aware of of African Americans specifically. That was always something that was always emphasized, and that you never want to go ahead and mix with them. That's like the things that I grew up with. You know what I mean? So when I see what's currently going on, it's very, very strange to me in a sense.
It was kind of odd. In the neighborhood I grew up with, we're getting people from Central America that don't even speak Spanish. They're it's some type of native language that they speak.
Oh, I know exactly. I know exactly. It's an African language, correct?
Uh, no, I think it's like a Mayan language. These are like
Oh, really?
native people that come from like the jungle part, Central America. I have no idea how they ended up here.
Oh, Jesus,
But yeah,
the
they are.
diversity. God,
Yeah,
the
and
diversity is getting to you.
you see them at the welfare office trying to apply for benefits, but they only have a very elementary understanding of Spanish, so they're having a tough time trying to find people that actually can communicate with them. It's a very unique problem.
Oh yeah, that's one of the issues that now that the state has to take a burden now of trying to find translation for these people and trying to have them understand like the programs that they could apply for. It's a mission. I can imagine how much of a burden that's going to be, and if more end up coming in, that's going to be just worse. It's going to be worse on the state and the people that are currently occupying the state.
Yeah, it's something you would never expect. Like people from Central America, we're getting the ones that the worst of the worst, the ones that aren't even in the city, the ones that live in a rural area. They probably still live in a jungle, undeveloped jungle. Don't even understand Spanish, and somehow they make it all the way up here.
Yeah, probably. I'm assuming that this has to do with something like those organizations like what is it? Something Without Borders. I forgot their name. Like all these organizations that try to bring in people from Central America and Mexico to come over here. I think it's called Something Without Borders. Do you know exactly what I'm talking about?
Well, there's a lot of organizations, Doctors Without Borders, Journalists Without Borders.
Yeah,
Probably a
yeah.
doctor's one.
and that's probably some of these organizations that are responsible for this. And you would just be just surprised to to see that you know that you're getting invaded by people that just don't even have a even clue of probably how they've even gotten there.
Yeah, they probably didn't even know where they were going. They were just promised, hey, food, shelter, and food.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They probably didn't even know how they they probably don't even know what state they're in. And it's a shame because this is happening all over the world. It's not just happening here. It's happening in Europe. You know, it's happening with the African migrants over there and the Muslim invasion over there. It's it it's third worlders coming in, and we're having it down here as well with Haitians. Haitians are coming in, and you know, uh, they have a pretty bad reputation already as it is of eating dirt cookies. So it's we're having that influx of people coming down here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, I was hoping it would get more under control, but it just seemed really recently they've really been ramping it up. It's mainly these NGOs that are. It's not illegal immigration or even H-1B ones. It's a lot of these refugee programs that are doing the bulk of the importing people from all over the world.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because you know, like if you talk to, like, let's say for example a older Cuban generation person, and you ask them usually, oh, how do you feel about the new Cubans coming in? They'll tell you that they don't even want them here, right? Because a lot of them are just completely people that aren't able to assimilate. I mean, they grew up under communism, socialism, so they know once they arrive here, you know, they get like a way better lifestyle, you know, compared to what they currently have over there. And also the
Uh,
fact that it's mixed. You're getting more of a mixed type of person now that's coming from Cuba.
yeah, I thought Obama ended the what was it called wet foot, dry foot program for people from Cuba.
Yeah, I had heard about that Obama had ended that, and I believe actually I think I heard that Trump ended it from what I remember. I'm not too sure exactly which one did which. I don't really follow that. I'm already here. My father got here like in the 1960s, so it really doesn't really affect us.
Oh, yeah, got here way before any changes in policy.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer, and most of the older generation would prefer not to have the newer generation that's coming in. You
So
know, that's just the way. Good.
I was gonna say, you want to get into one of these articles? I got wanted to get to the one about Taco Bell. I got this weird article about Matt Hombach joining a different organization as a community outreach person, a
Really?
director of community outreach.
Yeah, you could go into the Heimbach article. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, this took me by surprise. So apparently, the National Socialist Movement, which is an organization that's headquartered out in Detroit, Michigan,
Hmm.
they got Matt Hombach to be the director of community outreach. And this is according to the NSM commander, Jeff Swope. Our new director of community outreach will closely work with public and international relations, as well as various other community outreach projects. Matthew has led on front lines here in the United States and has been a featured speaker in Europe. His activist experience and charismatic skill set are a great addition to our struggle. The NSM welcomes Matt Hornbach and those who have fought alongside him. They are true warriors of our folk. So I don't
Oh.
know how long it is going to be before he's sleeping with the director's wife or boss's wife.
God. Oh man, he has. I don't know. I don't know how you come back after such a tarnished reputation. I mean, that is, and it's, you know, if you're going and you're part of a traditionalist party, like, you know, traditionalist in the sense, you know, doing what he did specifically. Which, who was it that he slept with specifically? I don't remember.
It was his mother-in-law,
God,
his
that
wife's stepmom.
that is just vile. That is just I'm sorry, that's just so vile. Like to even being a part of a traditionalist party, and then also on top of that, sleeping with your mother-in-law. That's just gross. I don't think that you could lead a movement. You could, or even do an outreach community program as much anymore or anything. Once that happens, I think now you just stay in the sidelines. What do you think?
Yeah, you want somebody with more moral standing, better moral standing than him to be an actual director or leader of anything in any type of national organization right now. I think he could still be in the movement. Maybe he's like one of the people that's carrying the shields with the shield wall, but I don't see him being a leader of anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He has to be in the sidelines now, right? Like he just has to be on the sidelines now and like start to rebuild his reputation. Because you take a hit like that. I mean, I saw articles from mainstream outlets talking about this. You know, they took advantage, of course. Any type of news like this to completely slander the movement, right?
Yeah, I also heard a similar thing happened with Richard Spencer, who's sleeping with Greg Conte's wife or something like that, and that's
Oh,
why Greg Conte left.
is that a rumor, or is that like just a fact?
It's just a rumor. He wouldn't confirm or deny anything, so I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, it's speculative. I mean, maybe definitely possible. I mean, when you reach certain heights in a movement, right, you become a lot more attractive to women, right, to the women in the movement, right, because you're kind of like the alpha male, or the one on top of the pyramid, right. So, I definitely could see that being the case of being absolutely true. It doesn't seem far fetched, if anything, right? But I think Mike Heimbach's issue is just a little bit more disturbing, right? Like that's just a lot more disturbing.
Yeah, it is, and I don't even care if like his mother-in-law was hitting on him. He should know better.
It's like I don't even know. It sounds to me just so trashy. Like it sounds like like a trailer park like type of situation, which it definitely sounds like it was. So
Ironically, it happened on the trailer park compound
yeah, yeah,
where everybody in the
ironic.
party lives.
Yeah, ironically, right? So it just sounds it just reeks, and at least if let's say Richard Spencer's case is true, at least it's someone else's. Yeah, I know that you don't friends don't intermingle, but it's not someone that's like directly part of your family lineage, right?
Yeah.
If it's another woman that sees you as a man in power, I could definitely understand why. That's just, I think, part of women's nature to kind of flock to men like that.
Well, I guess the good thing is that the NSM isn't going anywhere. Like it's really what do they call WN 1.0, but they're waving of the swastika flags and covered tattoos head to toe. It's just a really bad look.
I
Not to
agree. I
mention,
agree.
yeah, not to mention that the way they carry their message, they carry a lot of racial slurs, and it's just a big turnoff for most people.
Yeah, it's the racial slur thing. It drives people away. A lot of people move away from the movement once you know. Even in my own circles and my own community, I've noticed that people kind of are afraid of it. You know what I mean? They're afraid of even associating with it.
I mean, I can understand online or because you're not allowed to say it at all. So it's kind of like you say it all you want online, like some private chat group somewhere. It's kind of like an edgy thing to do. You're not really allowed to do it, so that makes you want to do it more. But like out in public, when you're trying to convince people, it's just going to drive people away. The
Yeah,
average person, all you're going to do is get the people that are on the fringes, and that's not exactly what you need.
exactly. Yeah, right now at this moment, we need more, definitely more people on our side, and the more the left becomes radical, You know, from what I understand, actually, I believe next week Donald Trump is going to send a text message. I think like a test emergency text message. I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh, an emergency text message, kind of like that alert that we get on the TV in case there's like a hurricane or something.
Yeah, yeah, like kind of like that, or like an Amber Alert I don't know if it's next week or 2 weeks. It's sometime soon. So we're gonna see the left literally lose their shit. So I mean, hopefully that brings more people to our side of the movement, right?
Yeah, well, they're pretty much doing our job for us because they're literally not. Um, th- there's no limit to how far they're going to go, how far left, and they're pretty much going to push everybody to the right the farther left they go.
Yeah, I see it already happening. I see people that have, left leanings, start shifting more rightward because of how just ridiculous it's getting. And, movements like, Heimbach, it's definitely one that starts to deter people from us.
So, did you? I know this is kind of a little bit off topic. Did you hear about that Republican that won these sorry, Texas district held by the Democrats for like 139 years? It's like
Mm,
a district that's on the border of Mexico.
no, no, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up.
Wow,
Second.
holy crap. That's amazing. If that actually turned, I mean, I would imagine that if it was in Texas, I'm thinking somewhere probably southern Texas, and if it was Democrat held for such a long time, I would think that it would be a Mexican majority.
Definitely, the southern Texas is Mexican majority, and a lot of Mexicans that live in Texas, a lot of them are the ones that lived in Texas before the Mexican American War. A lot of them were white too, so they vote more Republican than like your Mexican that lives out in California.
Ah, yeah. Okay, I see. I see. So yeah, it seems that there's like a more of a connection, a historic connection between Texas and Mexico than there is between, like, let's say California and Mexico, right?
Yeah. Okay. Here's the article. Republican candidate won a shocking victory Tuesday in Texas, capturing a state Senate seat that has been held by Democrats for 139 years, and fizzling out Democrats' blue wave aspirations to flip the Lone Star State. Pete Flores, a former leader of the state Parks and Wildlife Department's law enforcement division, won the reliable blue district against Democrat Pete Gallego. I owe, quote, I owe this to God and to the grassroots in all of our counties in Senate District 19, Flores said. After his opponent conceded the race, the Texas Tribune reported, primary, this is an example of what happens when you have a united front and a grassroots effort. So now it's time to go to work. That is amazing that he was able to flip a district like that, a majority Mexican district. I think it's, let's see, 73% Hispanic and African American. That is something.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. I mean, if you got 73%, wow, that's a huge portion of the population that's Mexican and that they're voting rightward. I mean, man, that is a huge victory, I think, for us. Um, and hopefully it keeps growing that way in every area, because the more ridiculous the left gets, the harder it is for them to win. It's going to keep happening that way, and I hope it keeps growing and growing and growing. I mean, I think, when white people have to move out of California because of how bad it gets, and they have to go to another, state, hopefully they recognize that that was because of the policies that were voted in previously.
Yeah, and I thought the walk away thing of people leaving the Democrat Party, I thought it was just a meme, but apparently it's more true than I thought.
Oh, I mean, some people have doubled down on it, and those are the real, like, hardcore fanatics, and I know some of them. But some, the others that were not really like into politics, like, per se, like really hardcore Democrats, from what I've noticed, they are shifting towards us. And they, when they hear something in CNN, they question it. They actually question it, like, as before Donald Trump, it was just taken as mere fact.
Yeah, and also I think that's because the Democrats' platform is changing. Like they're pretty much getting away from the pro-worker type of side of things, and it's more of this racial hostility that they have, and it feels like that they're not standing up for the average person. I'm going to see. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more white people are going to be leaving the Democrat Party, like a lot of blue collar people out in the Midwest that traditionally vote Democrat, but they're
Yeah,
just not going to like the anti-white message they're pushing.
yeah, I agree. It seems to me that they're moving away from, the way that they got all their voters in the first place was fighting for the workers, against, the evil capitalists or whatever. And that message has just been erased, and it's just been purely racial now. It's just, we must destroy white men, white nationalism. Nationalism must be destroyed, and Trump is the symbol of that.
Yeah, they view him as an avatar for white people, even though he never said anything explicitly racial. They just see it. They read between the lines.
Yeah, I mean, when you see him go like campaigning, I mean, he's like the cut conservative, right? The person that grabs the black baby and kisses him in the forehead, like, he does all that stuff, and no matter what, he's gonna get the reign of hell from the left.
Yeah. So I also wanted to talk about this Taco Bell incident, right?
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
really caught up to it. I saw the video, but you know anything more about it?
yeah, absolutely. It's actually funny because I grew up in that area, and there was this video from Vince from Red Elephants. And look, I really like a lot of his content. He's awesome. He's one of the best guys, I think, to red pill boomers with, because I don't know why, but he just seems like that guy that could like really change people's perspective that are kind of like in the boomer tier category. And his name, the Red Elephants. It's perfect. So he made a video about the area, which he called it Hialeah. It's Hialeah, and he was saying that it was, it's a majority Spanish speaking, which is true. Now, one of the things that he mentioned was that it's one of the high, it had like one of the highest crime rates over some certain percentage over over the state average. And a lot of people will put the correlation that it's because it's, Hispanics or whatever, right? Um, Now, what he fails to recognize is in this area specifically, there are pockets in that area that have African Americans. So, what I did to compare this information was I took an all Cuban area because Hialeah is generally Cuban. I took an all area Cuban area in Miami as well that isn't surrounded by African Americans, and that the African American population is about 0.6%, and it's 23% safer than most areas in the United States. And this same type of quality of people that are in Hialeah specifically, next door to it is an area called Opalaka, and it's actually one of the most unsafest places. So the more you get towards the area heading to the Opalaka area, the more violence increases. And what I would say, is something called like a spillover effect, right? Like if someone from your neighboring county comes in and commits a crime in your county, um, that's a crime that's counted for your city, right? Hopefully, I didn't
So
confuse
sorry, I was
people.
repeating myself. Yeah, that's right. Um, yeah, I just looking at the crime stats. I looked at crime stats like around the world, and it's staggering how the crime rate of blacks is astronomically different compared to all race.
Right, and it's it to me. I was questioning it because it's like, how can one stock of people, like the same people, right, the same group of people, one area be safer than most of the United States, and then the same group of people, in another area, it's more dangerous. It doesn't make sense to me. So the only logical explanation to me is that the neighboring city, being mostly the most violent, one of the most violent areas, and it's way more dangerous. It's like the maximum of dangerous, right, in a city in the United States. That there's a 3% African American uh, population in the city as well. It's a higher increase of you're going to have a higher increase of crime, and this Taco Bell incident is just an incident that demonstrates the cultural conflict, right, between African Americans and Cubans. This situation was a white Cuban woman who didn't, for whatever reason, um, seems to me that she was going to call the cops on them. I don't know there's no real reason, because from the video clips I've seen, there's no real definite reason. But what the media did is they spinned it and said that, oh, she doesn't want to attend them because they don't know English, or because she doesn't know English, right? So it was spinned. So of course Fox News ran with that and things like that. But what would cause someone to call the cops on someone? Probably being disruptive, and that's what it seemed to me that they were being. They seemed to me that they were holding up the line as well, and she had to tell them she just wanted them to leave.
Yeah, well, I mean, they weren't inside the restaurant. They were just going through the drive-through, right? I mean, they could just pick up their food and leave. Not like they would be there for long.
Exactly. And it's just such a strange thing to say, hey, we're going to call the cops on you because you don't know English. That just sounds ridiculous. There's something more to that video that makes, and you could tell by the way that the African Americans were acting, that they were being disruptive. And this is, again, it just shows the cultural conflicts of situations when you have different groups mixing together.
Yeah, what's that saying? Diversity plus proximity equals conflict.
Yeah, it's just and that's there right there, showing you what it is like, what type of conflict exists when you do that. And look, I mean, with African Americans, there's conflict within themselves more than any other group, right? So of course, when they come into contact with other groups, they're gonna have the same reaction.
Oh, totally. There's a lot of conflict within the blacks amongst themselves, and it's like lighter skin versus darker skin. And of course, it's not really skin color itself. It's more of like a proxy for race. So the people who are lighter skin obviously are more whiter, or probably like other non-black DNA in them. The people who are darker have more black DNA in them. And the blacks feel that people with lighter skin are more successful than the people with darker skin. And they see this, they just don't know it's a racial connotation behind it.
Yeah, they just it's not something that they're consciously aware, but it's kind of just in us, right? And this reminds me of the situation in when the French ruled over Haiti. They killed the white men, of course, the African Americans, but they also killed the mulattoes.
Yeah, they, pretty horrible stuff. It wasn't even I wouldn't even call it a revolution. It was just a wholesale slaughter.
Yeah, it was just a slaughter, and they went after anybody that even had a remote white gene in them, or had remote white features, and they just went out and they killed them all. And that went along with the mulattoes as well, and that's and look at Haiti today.
Yeah, I was going to look more into that history. I only know about the early history. I know the whole island was owned by the French, and at one point the Spanish tried to intervene. That's why part of it's not Haiti anymore. Part of it's part of the Dominican Republic. But the whole island used to be Haiti.
Yeah, it was called Hispaniola. I believe
I'm gonna look it up.
some of the island, I believe it was called Hispaniola. And then what was interesting is that Cuba actually saw what happened there, and then they became even more cautious because of what happened to the French.
Yeah, even who was it, Jefferson or Jackson even wrote that America should intervene because these people are savages. Some of them might even be cannibals. He was advocating that they just killed all the Haitians because of what happened there.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, it comes to the point where you got to question whether these people could even govern themselves, right?
Yeah,
Is it possible for them to govern themselves? And my position is, I don't think so. I don't think they could govern themselves. I want them to have their own territory and their own land, but it's going to be a lot of, I'd say, when they do, like Africa, it's going to be a lot of pain and struggle for a very long time.
yeah. Unfortunately, there's not really much we can do. Well, I guess we can do something different than what we're doing, just handing out foreign aid to them. Like most of Haiti's food doesn't even come from Haiti; it comes from in the form of foreign aid. Their clothing comes in the form of foreign aid. They really don't produce anything themselves.
Yeah, and it's actually an area that I believe is loaded with like natural resources. So it's it's definitely it's a shame. It really is. It was. I'm sure when the French had it, it was a beautiful island.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. During the revolution, they burned down a lot of these buildings, all the French building architecture and everything. They would just go in these houses, break down the house board by board, and use it to heat their homes because they would rather live in a shack than live in the house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I went to DR recently, I saw that the beautiful uh, Spanish architecture is still there, and it's you go to Christopher Columbus's house, which he had there. It's beautiful, and it's still standing, and you're just still kind of like in awe. And a lot of those churches, they're absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, and you could tell that this wasn't made by African societies; these were made by European societies.
Yeah, I was trying to look up this film, but Eric Stryker recommended this one film. It's about Africa. It's an Italian film, and it's about when the decolonization of Africa happened, and they were back, I think, like 5 or 10 years later, and you're just looking at how horrible things were. The film mostly focused on the Congo, and they were showed the pictures before of how they had this railroad station, they had all these palaces, mansions, and this uh, big skyscrapers. It looked like it didn't really look like Africa. It looked like a modern city.
It looked like Wakanda.
Well, yeah, I guess it says it would look like Wakanda if Wakanda existed. And then when all the Belgians and the French left the Congo, they didn't know how to maintain anything. So they had the power plant. They didn't know how to maintain the power plant. Didn't know how to maintain plumbing. So what they would do is they literally go into these houses and they would take the house apart board by board and then heat their own home to cook with. Yeah,
Oh
heat the house,
Jesus.
cook with it, and they would live in like these mud huts instead of living in houses. It's ridiculous. I don't know why they would make that decision, but
Well, that again, that just shows the differences, right? Like, we would make, I think, absolutely different decisions than that. But to them, it seems in their thinking process that this is a logical thing to do.
yeah, and they also have a port. It's a port that's been there since the Belgians built it, and it's just falling apart. None of the cranes work anymore. They're all completely just rusted over, but they still use it. They still use it for like the one or two boats that are still operational, and it looks like it might sink at any moment because they don't even know how to repair the boats.
Oh Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ! It's one of the hardest things for people to kind of recognize that there is a racial difference, especially when it comes to African Americans. I don't even think it's that they don't want to acknowledge it, right? That's what I think of this. They don't want to acknowledge it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Too bad I can't think of the name, but it's a really red pilling movie. I mean, how much wealth they had, and they couldn't maintain it, didn't understand it. You have trains there. The trains are a museum. It's like, hey, look at this! All these things that used to be here when the Belgians ruled over us. They don't know anything about how to operate the train or how to repair the train tracks or anything.
Oh Jesus Christ! It's a wasteland now. It's like a wasteland. That's what it sounds like. I mean, I believe, I don't know. I think it was Jared Taylor that was talking about. He went to Africa, I think, to the western side, and he was like, "Oh, that it was like a pretty nice city. I believe it was. I think it was in Ghana that he went. There's some one of those nations around there, Ivory Coast." And he's like, he asked, the local person. He's like, "Oh, how's this place so in modern?" He's like, "Oh, because the French colonized us." And you're like, "Oh, well, that actually makes sense." They made structures, and of course, if you have a group of people that know how to do this stuff, you're gonna start having a thriving society, or what's better than what was there before, per se.
Yeah, did you watch the live stream with Eric Stryker and Culture Tug the other night?
Yes, yes, I did. I actually donated to them.
Oh, yeah, of course. I forget your name's Dan Man on there. I think he was like anti-communist Cuban on Gab, and you follow him on
Yeah,
Instagram as well.
it's either or. It's either or. I think I've confused people with that, but that's whatever. I don't know which one to switch it to. Whichever one's more recognizable.
Yeah, and not just when Southern Dingo got on, he started really just getting upset, kind of chimping out. And you know, I can understand him. He probably lives like in a neighborhood surrounded by blacks, probably a lot of crime in that area. But people should like learn to not put their anger against black people themselves. It should be directed towards the people that created the problem in the first place. More of a
Yeah,
destructive
yeah.
flaggers.
I agree. It's when I went to DR, there's a difference. Like, yeah, we understand the level of intelligence, but there is a level of propaganda that the trusted flaggers have engaged in to African Americans that has specifically hit them, that in a way that is not seen in Dominican Republic, shall I say?
Yeah, it's just I feel like when somebody gets mad at a black for acting the way they are, it's like getting mad at like a beaver for building the dam. It's just really not that intelligent to know any better.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like getting mad at a child. I mean, some of them have IQs that are kind of like in that range, So how can we really be that upset with them? Some people argue that that's why we shouldn't punish them as harshly as other people because they're not as intelligent enough to recognize what's going on.
Well, I wouldn't know about that because I think during segregation they were pretty harsh with how they treated them, right? And
Yeah,
essentially
yeah.
they had to.
Yeah. No, I definitely I saw that podcast with Dingo as well, with him getting pretty upset. I don't think I've ever seen Dingo that pissed, actually.
Yeah, I don't know because I think Eric Stryker and Culture Thug they're kind of right with the approach they're kind of go with, trying to just figure out a way to get along with people so we can remove the trusted flaggers from power and then figure out what to do afterwards.
I,
'Cause,
I could agree with that. I could agree with that, and it's me setting aside like my libertarianism, I guess you could say, completely, and into pursuit of just defeating the people that are on top.
yeah, because the W WN 1.0 has been tried before, and if if there's anybody that can convince white people, would have been George Lincoln Rockwell. I mean, the country was like 93% white, 90 whatever percent white, pretty high, and people were pretty pissed off with what happened because of forced integration. At the National Guard. Well, they always show that George Lincoln Rockwell painting of like the little girl had to be walked into school with the National Guard, but they don't show the other picture of like these white girls that are being dragged out by the National Guard with a rifle pointing at their back because they're forced to go to school.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, there's a book by Carl. I think his name's Carl Putnam, and he talks about this information that a lot of northern whites, for example, voted for segregation, even though they weren't ever going to experience it. So they were forcing, through their voting, they voted for other people that didn't want to integrate in the South, and working class whites to be forced to be with people that they didn't want to associate with. And William Pierce even says it. That they weren't being bused. Their kids weren't being bused to black schools. Or black kids being bused to their schools.
Yeah, it's a kind of a shame. I mean, it really destroyed the city. It just pushed people out into the suburbs, and they have this no connection to their community. Like their neighbor is a lot of people don't even know who their neighbors are.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and that's what you start to see, like a lot more of like the racial mixtures. You start to see, white women starting to go with black men, even though it's not common, but it is common when you start to racially mix people together, right? You start to see that this starts to happen.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. It's not common. It just with when you see it all in the media, like nonstop, and every advertisement, and there's always like this blonde girl with this black guy. You think that it's more common than there actually is.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, when you actually start to see it in real life, you kind of like, you're like, wow, like I just cannot believe that this, you just get surprised, that, women get propagandized this way, and it's a shame because they don't really know what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually the biggest problem is like white women aren't even having kids at all, whether it be with a white person or a non-white person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I could say is, from seeing like what I've seen, you're regressing. You're regressing what thousands of years took to get to you, and you're just gonna shift it backwards. I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal. They want everybody to be this low IQ, deracinated people that have no connection to anything, easy to control. While the people on top, well, they get to have their homogenous communities, their homogenous religious temples.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I have a friend of mine that actually told me, he said something very powerful once, because in Cuba, what ended up happening when the communists took power, one of the first things they did was they burned down the records to Spain, to the connection to Spain, and he what my friend told me, he's like, well, why would they do that? They did that in order to cut you off from your past, so they could create a brand new future for you.
Well, that's pretty much the communism anywhere. It's exactly what they did in China. Destroyed all of the links to the past, the cultural past. And all this Chinese medicine, like using tiger balls, are supposed to increase your fertility. That's all just crap that was made up from Mao Zedong. None of that traditional medicine's even around anymore. It's all just propaganda that was replaced with the Communist Party.
Really, I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, all the traditional Chinese medicine. It's just what was the Mao Zedong and the Communist Party used to replace the actual traditional medicine.
Wow, look at that. I mean, yeah, it's just evident everywhere you go when you follow communism, you seem to follow the trail, and it always leads back to some individuals, let's say.
Yeah, I think it was even can't remember what episode, but I remember it might have been the Fascism Now episode that Stryker did. He mentioned how there was a Jewish person that went to China to try to spread communism, but he pretty much got kicked out, and then they did the whole own thing. This weird mixing of Confucianism with communism, what they have today.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just seemed to have spread everywhere. I mean, in China, it's just kind of strange because you would think it'd be harder for these trusted flaggers to assimilate to some place like that, right?
Yeah, I mean they don't look like them; they would stick out like a sore thumb.
Exactly. So they went all over elsewhere. They went everywhere in Europe, and then they transferred, from what I see, um, what it looks like to me is they attacked areas in the United States inside the government, but where they really had their strong hold is like in they went from Latin America to North America, where we're currently they've already pretty much accomplished, I think, what they want to accomplish in Latin America, or they want to continue. But now it just seems to be something that's focused more in North America.
Well, eventually they're going to go after everybody. They're really just after white people right now because they're the one group that can actually be able to fight against them. But they're going to go after the East Asians after that. There's just really no stopping them.
Yeah, it only comes about until people start to recognize, and then what we're seeing right now, I think, in my opinion, is the starting of anti-Semitism, right? Like in the true sense, right? Not like the way that the Jews see it, right? Like, because we know what's really going on. So where this is starting to build, and it's only going to increase. It's not going to decrease. The fire's already lit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's ironically, but it's been 109 countries. So I think they're just not. They're going to keep doubling down, and then ironically, when they double down, they're going to create more anti-Semites.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. And I believe, as in Ernest Zundel believed, that there will be a real Holocaust, and it's not just going to happen, like in one specific area, like they claim. It's going to happen worldwide, and it's going to be something that he even said himself that he didn't want to be around when that happens.
So there's one last topic I wanted to cover since we have like 10 minutes left, almost 56 minutes. So I do apologize for not trying to get Johnny Bennett's on the air. I'm out without internet. Just moved. Just got my internet hooked up like yesterday. So did you hear about the Cody Wilson incident?
I did hear about it only briefly. That it was mentioned that I believe he had sex with an underage girl that told him that she was 18, but in reality she was 16.
Yeah, me and Johnny were having like a little back and forth on Gab about it. So he went on his website. It's called sugardaddymeat.com, I believe.
Oh my god! Oh god! Just that just sounds funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so on the website, if you're a girl and you got to sign up, it's got to take a picture of yourself, got to take a picture of your ID, and then they're supposed to verify, do a background check on you actually, and verify your information because the people that join that website are pretty wealthy individuals, and they want to make sure they're safe from any type of situation like what happened to him. And he met this girl, and they went on a date, go back to his hotel. They gave her like $500 to have sex with her, and then a month later, yeah, charge him for underage sexual assault.
It's this issue is it's a doozy. I mean, especially with the company, if they didn't do a proper background search with them, I mean, man, that's a big one. Because you know I'm not opposed to the idea that in the legal away from the legal sense, like that a 16-year-old, because a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, what's the difference? Just 2 years. And usually there's a lot of 16-year-olds that sometimes even look older, 18, 19, 20. They're full women, full figures. So um, legally wise, it's illegal, unfortunately, for in the case. I mean, depending, I think, on which state you go to, right?
Yeah, each state has its different age of consent,
But I think
but
like the standard is like 18.
yeah, I think there's like a legitimate debate to be had about the age of consent should be 16 or younger than 18. I do think people should be getting married younger and start having kids at a younger age. I mean, right now, what is it? Like mid 30s is the average. It's like way too old.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And you know, a difference between a 16 and an 18-year-old, it really to really go after this guy that way. I mean, it just seems like nonsense.
Yeah, well, my big disagreement with Johnny was Eric was saying how we support him, and I was kind of agreeing with Eric, but Johnny said no, we can't allow, gotta have very high standards that anybody who engages in any type of degeneracy like this should be completely condemned. But the way I see it is the way with current society is what you hear in the education system, public school, college, you see on TV and the movies. It's kind of very tough to think anybody would act in this hyper moral way as far as sexuality is concerned,
Yeah, I
especially since
agree.
we're being encouraged to act opposite.
Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, the culture around you. I mean, you are flooded with whatever. When you just walk outside, when you look on your TV, you're just flooded with degeneracy. You know, so it becomes very hard for us to keep like a real high moral character under these circumstances, right?
Yeah, I think we gotta have standards, high standards. We don't want people that are completely degenerates, but at the same time, we should be realistic. Like we can't expect people to like be a virgin until they're married. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, for example, if we had women that wore skirts like till their knees, you know, like all around us, you know, uh, yeah, you know, we could have like this, you know, whole moralistic view. But unfortunately, you know, when you walk outside and some women are wearing, you know, aren't even wearing underwear under their skirts, for Christ's sakes, you know, you know, this is one of the things that drives us men, right? I mean, women physically, right? So as soon as women looking like that physically, it drives us to them.
Yeah. Well, there's also women that wearing underwear and they have these. I don't even know what they're called. These shorts are so short, their butt cheeks are popping out of them. And if they bend down a certain way, you see, well, more than what you should be seeing.
Yeah, yeah, you know, so it becomes very hard, and our animalistic instincts kick in, right? Like it's like one of those things that, you know, we just automatically go in, and sometimes unconsciously it just happens. So I don't really fall with the whole Puritan like view of like, you know, oh, we have to have this high standard. He's definitely someone that should be defended, and you know, again, this is a 16-year-old and come to an 18-year-old. You know, like it's not much of a difference. I mean, I when I was in high school, I mean, there were 16-year-olds that were going out with college students, college men.
Yeah, that's how it was when I was in high school. All the sophomore and senior girls didn't date anybody in high school. They all were dating college guys because well, they
Exactly.
could buy alcohol and drive them around.
Exactly. Why would you want to settle with a man, you know, that can't, you know, drive, and you know, doesn't have access to alcohol, doesn't have some sort of status, right? Like, I mean, come on, it just it's just ridiculous.
Do, are you familiar with Return of Kings?
I've heard of Return of Kings. I believe that someone wrote for him, and I someone sent me once an article, and I'm not sure who it was.
Yeah, well, I was on the Rouge V forums. I forgot my username and password, so I can't bring up the post. But it was like from 2011, 2010. It's talking about girls like this one that was on the Sugar Daddy website,
Hmm.
that a lot of these young girls, like 15, 16-year-old, they post pictures online, like graphic pictures of themselves. Well, not too graphic. This isn't sexual suggestive poses, and they get a lot of attention from men, and they get addicted to that. So a lot of them will end up doing like titty streamers is what they call them on Twitch. These girls that are playing video games, but they wear like very revealing clothes.
Yeah, like that gamer Brittany Venti, I believe she's one of those, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, at least she's honest about it, right? I don't know why people are like paying her money just to play video games when she's like in a tank top. And it's not really something special for me.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's kind of ridiculous. It's like the ultimate beta male thing to do, right? Like to give a girl money that you don't even know, and she's just playing video games. Doesn't that seem so beta male to you?
Yeah, it does. There's actually this too bad I can't bring it up. There's this Spanish porn star that made more money playing video games than she did when she was doing porn.
Oh god, what the fuck? Like, oh my god, I don't even know what to say about that. That's just you would think that there'd be more eyes on her when there's porn, but apparently, it's just it reminds me of this like kind of portion of that I've seen in society of men that like what they like to do is like read comic books and play video games. Look, I'm not opposed to playing video games. Of course, I played it largely when I was young. I don't play many. I don't play it probably hardly at all. But I see this whole portion of men that are kind of like so cucked and care about superheroes and comic books and just ridiculous things like movies and all this shit. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, the Bugman life, as they
Yes,
call it,
yes,
right?
that's the term, bugman. It's these guys. They go and these are the type of men that are going there and paying these women tons of money, and just to see like a two pair of tits playing a video game, like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, the article was pretty much covering how these girls start out young, showing their pictures, and then they go on the webcams, and then they get these guys from Saudi Arabia that'll pay them like thousands of dollars to fly them out to Dubai, and they do all these this very sick and degenerate stuff to them.
Really? So like, do they have sex with them? I'm assuming and all this stuff.
Oh yeah, they have. Well, obviously they have sex with them. Well, and they have orgies too, where they have other people from, I guess, friends or family members they have join in with them.
Ah,
And
God, yeah, that's pretty sick, and yeah, I could see the trend, right? Like, once a woman starts looking good, she gets noticed by men. That attention becomes addicting. I mean, who doesn't want to know that they look well, right?
yeah, and according to, well, I don't know how true it is, but like a woman gets kind of like a sexual gratification from just being desired,
Yeah,
like other
absolutely.
than
Yeah, I think
physical aspect.
I think that's more important to them actually than anything else. Um, I definitely think that that's more important to them to actually get the approval from men all over the community. If you're a 10 as a woman, you pretty much are being offered sex on a daily basis, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like every minute of every day when someone opens the door for you, hey, here's some dick for you. Uh,
yeah, yeah. Chris
here's
Rock said.
let me get you some food. Oh, that's a sign of hey, here's some dick. you know,
Yeah,
it's like
so,
men cater to you. Men cater to you when you're that beautiful. You know.
yeah. That was the essence of the article is that if we want women to behave differently, then men would have to, well, demand it, and we have to stop encouraging this behavior, and well, women will change. Women follow what men do, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. There's also the component of like the government too that really sides with women too. So it's hard for us at this moment to really put our foot down, right?
Yeah, true. If we do put our foot down, then like in some places, pretty much illegal.
Did you ever see? There's this video of these feminists, right? That they, you know what? I give these two feminists some props because most feminists, what do? They when they go to protest, they'll go to the safest thing, right? To like a Catholic or Christian church, right? They'll go there with their tits out and protest, and the priest or the pastor is not going to do shit. These two brave
Definitely.
women, huh? These two women went to an Islamic, I guess a mosque. I believe that's what they're called, and with their titties out. Boy, you know, then you start to understand, why women shouldn't be going to mosque. You get a real, or feminists shouldn't be going to mosque because the guy that went up there when as soon as they started screaming, the I guess I don't know what their priests are called or whatever, they kind of went aside.
Imam.
Yeah. So they went aside, and then the crowd of men came up, and they just started beating the shit out of them, like literally
Oh,
beating the shit out of them.
damn! That guy. They're lucky they didn't get raped.
Yeah, lucky.
Lucky
Yeah,
that's only didn't happen.
but you start to see the way women think, right? That it's they even think about safety, like right when it comes to things that they think they're doing radical, right? Like when they go to that Christian church, right? That's why it's only been two women, two brave women that went to that I've ever seen, because they know
Uh,
what would happen.
well, I wouldn't call them brave. They're just very dumb or
Dumb,
naive.
yeah, yeah. You're naive, yeah, naive, because they probably thought that it's going to be hey, I've done this probably at this Christian or Catholic church, and hey, it's going to be the same thing here. No, you're dealing with a completely different beast. This is where men run shit.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. If you look on the fertility rates worldwide, there's only two regions in the world. That's sub-Saharan Africa and the Muslim world, where they have a fertility rate that's at replacement and above. So,
Wow, really?
yeah, I mean, all the Asian countries are below. So you have South Korea is literally below one. They got like zero point 0.7 fertility rate. Countries like Thailand, Singapore, like practically all of Asia has a fertility rate below replacement.
Yeah,
Europe
Japan.
is,
I know Japan has a very bad issue with their birth rates over there.
yeah, Japan. Yeah, it's just it's something that will pretty much be, well, the whole world will be replaced with Muslims and Africans.
Oh God, can you imagine a world like that? Can you imagine how terrible a world like that would be?
All right, well, it's about 56 minutes, so I guess let's start wrapping this up. Do you have any closing statements?
No, man, it was a great first show. It was awesome. We had a lot of definitely different topics to go over, so it was definitely fun.
Yeah, not too bad. Didn't have a lot of time to prep. Kind of just shot from the hip, but I think everything went well.
I agree. I think we should definitely do some more for sure.
Yeah, definitely got to pick a time schedule. Hopefully, stick to it. But I really like this format. Hopefully, people get interested, get more viewers.
Agreed. Agreed.
Well, you can catch me on Gab, Rafael Trujillo, and I'm also calling Christopher Cantwell. Don't really have any other social media sites. You want to plug anything?
Yeah, just my gab is anti-communist Cuban. Most people know me as Dan Man. So sometimes you'll see me spurg out on Striker and call into Cantwell.
Yeah, I like your conversation with you and Striker.
I mean,
You
I,
like
I
it?
think that they're pretty respectful, actually.
Yeah. I like that it's respectful. You know, you can have disagreements with people, but as long as you keep it civil, then it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, see you next time, guys.
All right, guys.